There used to be a deal. You worked hard, you moved forward. You showed up early, stayed late, proved yourself, and eventually someone noticed. That deal is over. And most people still don't realize it. They're still operating under the old framework. Still believing that effort translates to outcome. Still confused about why nothing's changing. This isn't about fairness. It's not about whether hard work is valuable. It's about whether the system you're working inside still rewards it the way it used to. And it doesn't. Not because people became lazy. Not because values declined. But because the structure changed. And when the structure changes, the old strategies stop working. Even when they feel right. You were probably taught the same thing everyone else was. Work hard. Be dependable. Keep learning. Stay consistent. And you'll get ahead. It wasn't a lie when they told you. It was true for them. In the system they lived in, effort was the primary variable. If you doubled your effort, your outcome improved. If you showed up when others didn't, you moved up. That's not how it works now. Now, effort is baseline. Everyone works hard. Everyone stays late. Everyone optimizes their resume and answers the emails and does the extra project. So hard work stopped being a differentiator. It became the entry fee. And when everyone pays the entry fee, the game changes. The system doesn't reward effort anymore. It rewards position. Let me explain what that means. In the old economy, production was local and linear. If you were a skilled carpenter, you built furniture. If you were a good one, you built more furniture or better furniture. Your income scaled with your skill and your hours. The bottleneck was your effort. So effort mattered. Now, production is global and exponential. A single person can write code that runs on 1 billion devices. A single creator can reach 100 million people in a weekend. A single company can serve an entire continent with 70 employees. The bottleneck isn't effort, it's access. Access to networks. Access to distribution. Access to capital. Access to attention. And access doesn't scale with how hard you work. It scales with where you are inside the system. Here's the structure. In any modern economy, there are 2 layers. The execution layer and the leverage layer. The execution layer is where most people live. You trade time for money. You complete tasks. You fulfill roles. You are compensated for showing up and doing the work. This layer still values hard work. But it caps your outcome. Because you can only work so many hours. You can only be in one place. You can only serve one employer or one client at a time. So your ceiling is fixed. No matter how hard you work. The leverage layer is different. This is where people own the systems. They own the platform. They own the distribution. They own the brand or the capital or the infrastructure. In this layer, your outcome isn't tied to your hours. It's tied to how many people are working inside your system. You don't work harder. You position yourself differently. And the system multiplies your input. This isn't about good or bad. It's about design. If you're on the execution layer, the system needs you to stay there. Because the leverage layer depends on a large, skilled, stable workforce that keeps showing up. So the message you receive is always the same. Work harder. Be more productive. Improve your skills. Get another certification. Optimize your routine. And all of that is good advice. For staying exactly where you are. Because the skills that make you valuable in the execution layer are not the skills that move you to the leverage layer. In the execution layer, you're rewarded for reliability. For consistency. For following instructions well. For being good at what someone else designed. In the leverage layer, you're rewarded for ownership. For building systems. For taking risk. For creating something others depend on. Those are opposite skill sets. And the transition between them isn't linear. You don't work your way up. You jump. And most people never jump. Not because they're not capable, but because the system they're inside never tells them to. In fact, it tells them the opposite. It tells them to specialize. To get really good at one thing. To become an expert in a narrow field. And that works. If your goal is to be hireable. But it traps you. Because the more specialized you become, the more dependent you are on someone else's system. You become a high-value component. But still a component. Here's the part people don't talk about. Hard work still works. Just not the way you think. It works if you're working on the right thing. And the right thing is never the thing you were hired to do. Let me say that again. The right thing is never the thing you were hired to do. Because the thing you were hired to do is designed to benefit the person who hired you. That's not cynical. That's just structure. They built a system. They need people to run it. You're running it. And you're being compensated for that. Fairly or unfairly, that's what's happening. But the system isn't designed to promote you out of it. It's designed to keep you inside it, operating it, improving it, making it more efficient. And every time you do, you make yourself more valuable to them and less likely to leave. This is why people get stuck. They do everything right. They work harder than everyone around them. They develop skills. They get recognized. They get raises. You'll get better. You'll get recognized. You'll hit a ceiling. If you're optimizing for position, you're playing the leverage game. You'll build slower. You'll fail more. You'll own the outcome. Most people are playing the first game and wondering why the second game's rewards never show up. They don't show up because you're not in that game. Here's what actually changed. It's not that hard work stopped working. It's that the environment it works inside became smaller. If you're inside a system someone else controls, hard work makes you better at serving that system. That's still valuable, but it caps you. If you're building your own system, hard work compounds. Every hour you invest increases the value of the next hour. Because you're not trading time. You're building equity. Equity is the difference. When you work for someone else, you rent your time. When you work for yourself, you accumulate equity. Equity doesn't pay you now. It pays you later. And it pays you whether you're working or not. That's leverage. This is why the old advice doesn't work anymore. The advice was built for a world where jobs were stable, companies were loyal, and effort led to promotion. That world is gone. In this world, companies optimize for efficiency. That means lower costs. That means fewer people. That means more automation. That means less room at the top. So the people who win aren't the hardest workers. They're the people who own the automation, who control the platform, who built the system everyone else works inside. And they didn't get there by working harder. They got there by working on a different problem. The problem wasn't, how do I get promoted? The problem was, how do I stop needing permission? That's the real shift. The people who thrive now are the ones who stopped waiting for someone else to give them opportunity. They created their own. And that requires a different kind of work. Slower, riskier, lonelier, but compounding. Most people won't do it. Not because they can't, but because it feels inefficient. It feels inefficient because there's no immediate feedback. No paycheck. No promotion. No one telling you you're doing well. You're just building. And most of the time, it doesn't work. So people go back. They go back to the system that gives them feedback, that tells them they're valuable, that pays them on time. And they stay there, working hard, wondering why nothing's changing. Here's the truth nobody says. Hard work will always be necessary. But it's no longer sufficient. It's no longer sufficient because the system doesn't reward effort. It rewards position. And position isn't earned by working inside the system. It's built by stepping outside it. So when people tell you to work harder, they're not wrong. They're just answering a different question. They're answering, how do I survive inside the system I'm already in? And the answer to that is, work harder. But if the question is, how do I build something that doesn't depend on someone else's approval? The answer is different. The answer is, stop optimizing for their system. Start building your own. That doesn't mean your work now is meaningless. It means it serves a different purpose than you thought. Your job isn't your future. It's your foundation. It gives you time, income, stability, and you use that stability to build something else. Quietly, slowly, without announcing it. Most people do the opposite. They pour everything into the job and wonder why they're exhausted with nothing to show for it. They have something to show for it. Someone else's wealth. Someone else's system. Someone else's leverage. That's not wrong. But it's also not yours. Here's what most people miss. The system doesn't owe you anything. It never did. The system rewards the people who understand how it works and then position themselves accordingly. If you understand the system and choose to stay inside it, that's fine. But you can't expect the outcomes of the other game. You can't rent your time and expect equity. You can't work inside someone else's leverage and expect your own. You can't optimize for performance and expect position. The games are different. The rules are different. The outcomes are different. And pretending they're the same is what keeps people stuck. Not the system. The confusion. So here's the reframe. Hard work still works, but only when it's applied to the right structure. If you're working to improve performance inside a system you don't own, you will get better. You will not get free. If you're working to build position in a system you do own, you will struggle. You will not stay stuck. The question is not whether you should work hard. The question is what you're working toward. And most people never ask. They just work. And hope. And wonder why hope isn't enough. It isn't enough because hope isn't strategy. And the system doesn't respond to hope. It responds to position. You can be the hardest worker in the room. But if you're in the wrong room, it doesn't matter. The room decides your ceiling, not your effort. So the question isn't how hard are you working. The question is, what room are you in? And if you don't like the ceiling, you don't work harder. You change rooms.